intellectual disabilities that were identified. Mentally retarded and gifted. Those were the two intellectual disabilities. And someday I hope to do you a whole thing on gifted. Is something wrong?
Wait.
Yes?
Okay, can you please mute yourselves?
Oh, okay.
Okay, I'll try to mute all again.
Oh, I hear a baby. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, I'm going to keep talking. I can talk over children. Trust me. So
Okay, I'll try to mute all just for the good of all of us. And Dr. Virginia, if you can unmute yourself again. I'm sorry.
Sure. Am I on again?
Yes.
Okay, let's keep going. So anyway, we could have a, if you think about intellectually gifted students, they're as far from the normal as what was then called mentally retarded. By the way, we don't use that word anymore, but it was used then. And my first master's degree was in that, and it says master's degree in the mentally retarded. Okay, so let's keep going. The handicapping conditions were auditory, visual, speech, orthopedic, and behavior deviations. That's what they thought of at that time of special education. Now something has happened and I cannot go to the next one. There we go. All right. So what about this man named Samuel Kirk? Look what he says. He was the first one to ever use this word, learning disabilities. Now, I know in most of your places, you now talk about different learning disabilities, but he was the first one to come up with that word. That's why I was using his book to share that with you. I'll give you a second to look this over. All right. Look at the United States and think about where you are compared to this. This is before 1975. More than 1 million were refused education. States even had laws that said blind, deaf, emotionally disturbed, mentally retarded children could not attend school. So 1 in 5 received some kinds of education. There was a little bit of money provided, but then we started having court decisions. Pennsylvania was extremely, the state of Pennsylvania, extremely active. And there was a group called, it was a group for the mentally retarded. And they kept saying, we're paying taxes. Our children deserve to go to school. So 1975 in the United States, this is what happened. It was called Public Law 94-142, and it was called FAPE, Free Appropriate Public Education for Every Child. Okay. So, in 1975, did the U.S. change? Nope. Okay. Just like a lot of countries I've been in and I've worked in, yes, the country has laws. Has it changed? A little bit, maybe, okay? But way back in the United States in 54, we had another law, and this was more for the black-white issue in the United States. And they were saying separate is not equal. You can't have a separate school for the black kids and a separate school for the white kids. But that didn't apply. That did not apply to those students who had any kind of disability. So I want to share with you. And again, where are you? Where are you? Where is your school? Where is your school system? This was called Owen School, and it was for the mentally disabled, mostly for Down syndrome students. Okay. A court order came and said, separate is not equal. You cannot have the children here. Oh my gosh. Teachers were angry. Parents were angry. I was one that was fighting that decision because I had worked in that school. Look at that swimming pool. That was a beautiful school. And the kids were so happy. So I went to a parents' meeting where we were all protesting. One mother got up, many mothers got up, and fathers. One mother got up and said, I don't want my child to go to a regular school because if my child goes to that school, he cannot be on the basketball team. Bam. It hit me. And I thought, wait a minute. If my son's not good enough, he cannot be on the basketball team either. What have we created? We have separated these students and we have created a different world for them where they're not part of the regular system. It was an eye-opener for me, I will tell you. So anyway, that school is still there, but it's no longer a special school. So what do? Again, compare what you're doing. We moved them into the schools, but in separate buildings outside the school. And we said, hey, we're now bringing them to the regular schools. Another court case. Nope. You are still separating them. All right. So what do we do next? We had separate hallways. We even called them, look at this, special education resource rooms. Separate hallways for the kids in special education. And sometimes we mark those. Another court case. Nope, you can't do that. Well, in 1990, in the United States, there was another thing called Americans with Disabilities Act, and adults were now recognized. So that started changing some things. All right, couple things I want you to think about. This was said way back about 1905. Think about this in everything you're doing in the classroom. If you're teaching them the way you were taught, you're robbing them of tomorrow. Think about this. Maybe some of you all have been lucky enough to even be in some kind of seminar or something with John Hattie. He's from Australia. Boy, did this slap me in the face when I read it. Because I would always say, I'm teaching American history. I'm teaching Math 6. It's not about what I teach. It's about what the student learns. Let that sink in. John Hattie also says, my role as teachers is to evaluate the effect on my students. Think about that. All right. So how do we get to universal design for learning? Way back in 1987, there was a group here in my state where I live now of North Carolina, and they were saying, we've got to start making schools and universities and everything accessible for each person. Because what they were finding is if you were in a wheelchair, you may not be able to go into the computer room, or you may not be able to even get into the second floor where the computer room was. So what they started doing was they said, we've got to start making buildings. We've got to start making places to go to learn. They've got to become accessible to each person. So they came up with 7 rules. There's 7 principles of universal design. Look at those. So guess what happened? Those of us in special education said, wait, we can change this over so that it's for educational purposes and curriculum purposes. So that's how the universal design for learning came about. We took it from this Robert Mace at North Carolina State University, and we applied it to curriculum and education. So universal design for learning applies all of this to learning, that curriculum from the outside set be designed to accommodate all kinds of learners. Okay, so what we're looking for is expert learners. Begin with the end in mind. Differentiate the instruction to proactively meet the needs of each student, and barriers to learning are in the design, not the student. You're going to hear me say that several times. So UDL, okay, if you look at it, it's multiple means of engagement, multiple means of representation, multiple means of action and expression. So guys, you kind of got to leave this point of everybody turn to page 16, read it, and do the answers on page 17. I'm going to give you a second just to look that over. Okay.
Dr. Virginia,
yes.
Would you allow questions now or at the end of the session?
Let's wait till the end.
Okay.
Please, because yeah, I know what's going to write your questions down and then we'll do them at the end. I know it's better to do it now, but there's such a time limit on this that I want to be sure you see everything. But thank you for even being. I'm hoping this is just really getting to you. Okay. Okay. So if we look at universal design, there's a focus on the barriers of the design of the environment. In a UDL classroom, the focus is on how to change the design of the curricular goals, assessments, methods, and materials, not on how to fix the students. How many of you have done, I have, okay, have done the thing, turn to page 17, read it, do the answers on page 16, 18, whatever. And if the student can't do it, it's the student's fault. We've got to rethink all that. There's a strong focus on goals in the UDL classroom. There's a focus on variability, and the design, the experience, knowledge, and ability are all expected. So let's look real quickly. Now, here's another issue. Do you see down at the bottom, analyze the lesson goal? That is actually a link to a web page that would help you with this. I have sent this to the university, and you all are welcome to get this to go into all of these links, okay? What we're doing today is just an overview of this. This could be a whole course on learning how to do this, okay? So proactive design, you have to set the goal of what you're teaching. You're going to see me say this again. Yes, we use textbooks. A textbook is a guide. You are the teacher. You need to decide what is the goal. Okay, so usually we do a think, pair, share. So if you had this goal, understand and recognize the days of the week through reading, listening, writing, and speaking. You're teaching maybe an English class, or you're teaching young children. We're not going to think, pair, share unless you're with somebody. You can talk to each other about this. So what are the objectives of the lesson? And what would you set as a primary goal? But this is the other thing you've got to think about.